Are you curious about what we're talking about today?
Yes, I don't know what we're talking about yet, so.
I don't know what we're talking about today either. I think the audience might be very interested in it will be curious about what we are talking about today. And remember, we spoke about how things are going to be unscripted and you'll be really raw material, and we're going to stay with that throughout all the season. But I've got something really good today. I bought this set of cards, right? It's called, can you see? Right? It's called Helping Teenagers Talk About Their Lives. And this is the resources for supporting teenagers through meaningful conversations. And I thought, and this is done by Margot Sunderland. I'm not selling her stuff, but I just, found this set of cards really, really useful. So I thought what we can do is to just use this deck of cards, right? And then we'll draw the cards, and then whatever we draw, we'll talk about that today.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah.
Right. Let me just give it a shuffle, and then, okay. Right, let's see. What is it we are talking about today? Why is it so difficult? There's so many things. I'm really sorry. I'm just gonna be like really. Hang on a second. Now I made a mess of the cards, the deck of the cards. Right. One second. Okay, so I'm just gonna and I'll choose this one. Well, this looks like a very, very dark card, Belle.
Oh God, what is it?
It's. Can you see?
Can't
really see, right?
Read it, but I can see it.
Right. So this is the card about depression, depressed. Wow, it's interesting. Shall we talk about this? I don't have a choice not to talk about this.
No, we don't have a choice.
We're gonna draw a card, so we'll talk about this.
Okay.
Right. So depressed. What are your thoughts? Because I do know, for the past how many years, 10 years, 15 years that I've been working with teenagers and their families, there has been an increasing concern of teenagers' mental health, and not alone the situation with COVID.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
So
I've seen that a lot as well.
Yeah, it is quite concerning. But what are your thoughts on the feeling depressed and depression?
I think that in COVID times, I think it was very common. I think even I would say I did experience it. I think some of my friends experienced it because you were sort of stuck indoors, and if you already had some sort of anxieties or issues and things, and then you were then bitten in the environment where you were growing up indoors, no one to really talk to apart from your parents or siblings, and you just on Zoom calls and stuff. So I think it wasn't a good environment. Like, it is a hard environment to not feel down about, but let alone if you were already vulnerable to feeling like low or like feeling anxious and all these sorts of things. I think it's very it makes sense why a lot of people were experiencing that.
It is quite difficult, isn't it? And if we just speak about COVID itself, like you said, that environment, we're all isolating, and then the only means to be with your friends is through social media.
Yeah.
And then, but now let's go back a little bit, Belle, and you talk about this is something you experienced, through that period of time. How did you know this is how you're feeling? How did you know you're feeling depressed?
Well, I didn't know until probably afterwards. Like, you look back and you realize, oh, like, I actually was. But I mean, obviously, like, my parents kind of knew and were worried about me, but you only know when you come out of it a lot of the time, especially when like you don't have people around you, or you don't have those support lines to really like talk to you about it and validate you with it and make you feel better, sort of thing, or help you with it. So yeah, I mean, I didn't really know, but yeah.
Do you think the young people, like teenagers, know about this in terms
I
of
definitely
depression?
know. I think because of social media, I do think teenagers are aware, especially nowadays when there's so much awareness about it.
Mhm.
I think teenagers are aware of these things, but whether they can regulate, because you do have, whether they can regulate what is and what isn't, or if they actually are feeling it, or like, you know what I mean? It's hard to sort of know that, I would say.
Mm-mm.
Like, I think a lot of people struggle a lot,
Mhm.
even believing and actually admitting to themselves, okay, maybe I actually am depressed. Or it could be the other way where people might think they are depressed when
Mhm.
actually they're just experiencing being low and stuff, being a teenager, and there's all these sorts of things.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually, Bill. Because you know what? Even myself be like, oh, I'm depressed. But am I
Yeah.
really depressed? Do you know,
But
it
we
could
all,
be.
yeah, we all do that though.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. But then it's, being, like you said, being, and we talked about this last week, being a teenager is really, really challenging because you're going through a lot, right? And
mhm,
I remember this person who's like Marco, is it Marco Wardle? Yeah, he's a psychotherapist.
mm,
She's a psychotherapist. And she talked about how this phase of life is really the most challenging family life cycle for a
yeah,
person. And
mhm,
that just shows how difficult it is being a teenager. And
yeah,
then I'm thinking about all those feelings. If those feelings have no places to go, or you don't really know how you're feeling, it's gonna
mhm,
manifest itself. It's gonna
yeah,
make us feel, ugh,
yeah,
emotionally unwell and
mhm,
depressed. But then my
mhm,
next question, because I didn't go to school in Scotland here. I went to
mhm,
Taiwan, school in Taiwan, and back
yeah,
then I don't think young people knew about what depression was. And in
mm,
my era, right, any mental health challenges a young person had in my country was seen as crazy.
mm, yeah,
I don't know if you heard this. And that
uh-huh,
was really, yeah. So
mhm,
it was a different era. And I think maybe back then there's a lot of young people were depressed too,
mhm,
So, but that comes back to my question is in that back then in the school, because depression, the mental health things wasn't talk about, or we weren't taught about that in school, right? And I wonder if that is what's happening in school in Scotland. Do they talk about mental health? Do they talk about depression, low mood, and all these things in school?
Um, I'm not sure. They talk about
Mm,
they do talk about feelings, but I'm not sure if they really talk about depression and
mhm,
these sorts of things because I think it would be a hard thing, or like almost you wouldn't know how to go about that, or I don't know.
mhm,
But there is, I think, on social media, there's a lot of awareness of it, good and bad. I would
mhm,
say there's a lot of
mhm,
awareness of it. I mean, I know that in the past, with my sister's generation, like there was Tumblr, and a lot of people would openly post a lot about their depression, their experience of depression, in quite a bad way,
mhm.
on Tumblr. So I know that affected a lot of people, but I was young, I didn't know about
So
that.
what did they do on Tumblr? I
So
don't even know what Tumblr was. It's
yeah,
a
so
it's like a
basically Tumblr, there was a lot of like um posts, like it was sort of glamour, a lot of mainly girls. It was very like glamorizing and romanticizing their depression and all these sorts of
mm,
things. And I think social media has given a platform for depression to be glamorized, and
mhm,
like for issues to be glamorized. Less
mhm,
so now, but I
mhm,
think it actually did actually peak in 2020, because probably because a lot of people were feeling like that, but also because everyone was on their phones, so it just sort of escalated. But um yeah, I mean, I don't think schools, I guess it depends what school you go to. I mean, personally, in my experience, my school
mhm,
hasn't really talked about depression and stuff, but I know that there is, there's a school counselor and stuff that's a good school counselor, and there's all these sort of, there is
mm,
spaces to get help basically, and I know people use it because I don't know, I just know people use it. So
Mm-mm.
yeah.
That's really good, because I suppose being able to talk about the feelings are important.
Yeah.
And if there is a support and resources in school, allow the teenagers to talk about that. That helps a lot, because sometimes you don't always want to talk to your parents. I know I
No.
didn't.
Yeah. No.
So, right. So, go on.
But I have a question for you. Like, do you think, because you were saying that growing up, your generation didn't really don't even really know what depression was, and it was seen as crazy and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you think that's why a lot of parents, even if they've sort of been educated and know what it is now, do you think that's why a lot of parents struggle to validate their child's feelings, or maybe it brings up a hard place for them if their child's feeling a certain sort of way? Maybe it can be hard for them because they've grown up, with the stigma around it, and now their child's feeling it and they might not even believe it. So
that's a very, very good question, Belle. You put me on the spot. No, but I suppose there's a combinations of reasons here, isn't it? Like you said, if in Asia, I'm just thinking about the context in Asia, and I have to clarify, it's so much better now, right?
yeah.
We're teaching children about mental health and how they can get access for support, and there's been a big priorities in Taiwan about this, and I know that. So but we're talking about 30 years back, and I mean, I do believe there's still parents who are struggling with understanding what depression really means, and why my teenagers going through this, and what does that mean for them, for me as a parent, and for us as a family. And then there's definitely be about the, like you say, the stigma is, well, I'm so successful, or I'm this, and then my child is struggling. What does that mean? How are other people going to see me and see my child? And I think, yes, I'm really promoting inclusion and diversity and everything that's in my values. However, when your personal values and expectation and how you were brought up, it all come into play in this. It changes how you see things. I could be saying like, right, you know what? One day when I have a child, when I have a teenager, I'm going to be XYZ kind of mom. But when I'm actually mom myself, I'll be like, oh God. Everything I learned will probably be out of the door, because this is my own child. Right. So that part could be a challenge for parents. However, though, I have to say my experience of the working with parents for the past 30, 20 years, I think the parents are mostly very receptive of the support, and they want the support for their teenagers. They want to know how I can help my teenagers feel better, not to be in bed or be in their own room all the time. They want to do something. The frustration is more, the helplessness is more about how can I help, and what resources out there can I find to help my teenager? And there's less about, oh, what people are going to see me about this. That's what I've seen quite a lot. So I think it is that part the parents are struggling in terms of. So I don't know, what are your thoughts? See, when you're going through that period of like, COVID and like feeling depressed, what helped? Who helped you?
I think, well, the main thing that helped was when COVID sort of started to relax, and I did just naturally start doing more. And then obviously it was still bad for a while, but it just slowly sort of got better. So yeah, that probably was what helped the most. But I would say, I'm not really sure. I think my family, my dad and my family were quite, talked to me about it, and they did support me a lot. And my mum got me a therapist, which helped mostly. But she wasn't a very good therapist, but she helped me. But yeah.
So having so what I'm hearing is having a therapist to talk to will be helpful, but it's really important the therapist speak your language and is a good fit for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wow. I'm really surprised and impressed that you're open to therapy.
Yeah.
Because
I don't, it's not something that I wouldn't say it really like properly worked for me, but I think I started it at the stage where I was sort of, it was lockdown was breaking up a bit and I was seeing people, and I think it was more like, I'd say it's more just having some validation on how you're feeling. I would say actually that's probably what helped the most. If you like put it down to the bottom of it, like validation on how you're feeling, and then from there you can sort of get, okay, I actually am feeling like this. Okay, how do I work to not feel like this anymore? But like when you're in that stage of not having that validation, when you're a teenager, like, you can't really, it's hard to give yourself that validation. You don't know anything. So, you know, when you're feeling sort of like that, and you can't even say to yourself, you know, I actually do feel depressed, or I do feel this. Like, then how do you even start to get better without, unless you just ignore it and move on, which you can't do, but unless when things get better, you just push it under the rug. Like, to actually sort it out and to actually feel better, you have to sort of admit that and get validation on that. So I guess that's what therapy helped with. So maybe, yeah, but that can come from parents or friends, or I don't know.
I am an advocate for therapy, Belle, right? But there is for me as a professional, there's always a context to it as to when do you access therapy, for what reason, and who is the people around you that can support you through accessing therapy. So, and this is one curiosity I have is, and it's the parents' challenges as well, because their teenagers don't talk to them.
Yeah.
And there are many reasons why they are not talking to the parents.
Yeah, of course.
But I want to know from your perspective, you don't necessarily have to talk about your experience. You can think about your friends. What are some of the challenges or the barriers for the teenagers who want to share their feelings or talk about things with their parents?
Okay, so from a general perspective, from like me and my friends and everyone, I think there's so many different reasons depending on like the dynamic, like the type of parents and type of family it is. I know that my friends with very strict families, like it's not as much now, but when they were like 14, like prime teenage age, they found it hard to talk to their parents about these things. Whether it's like whether it's because the parents just don't really understand it, or just kind of want them to just feel better and start, you know, not doing that and just, you know, get up.
Give them advice.
Yeah, like not advice, and or it can be, I know that for a lot of people, when they talk about their issues with their parents, even if their parents are very open in person, sometimes I feel it can almost maybe trigger a parent a bit. And even if a parent is doing their best, like there can be some sort of conflict there because of it. And I think when you're a teenager, you pick up on things so much. So, and also just the fact of being a teenager, like you don't really want to talk to your parents about these sorts of things, or maybe a lot of teenagers have arguments with their parents and stuff.
But
And
why not?
maybe
Why not?
that's going on, maybe that's going on at the same time. So maybe teenagers sort of just feel, I can't talk to my mum about this because we're not in a good place right now. And like, even if that's not really preventable, like maybe that's the point where you get other help for your teenager, because any helps, you know, maybe it might hurt the parents' ego that they're not coming to them for help, but maybe that's what they need. But I don't know, just from what I can think of.
That's really insightful, Belle. And that I think a lot of it is also the parents' experience as well. Like, you know, what you just say, if I say something, it could trigger the parents and the conversation went totally a different way. Or it could be about, you know, don't do that. You know, and rather than validating, oh, this is how you're feeling, let's think about this a bit more. all that. And the parents
Yeah.
experience this too. And I
Yeah.
suppose I am thinking about what would help though, because, when you are feeling depressed and
Mm-hmm.
when you have all these feelings, you do need to have someone to speak to. And
Mm-hmm.
not every family will have the resources or the financial means
No,
to
of course.
access a therapy,
Mm.
a
Yeah.
therapist actually, access therapy.
Yeah,
And
and the NHS is really hard because I know some people that went through the NHS and
mm,
CAMS and things. And like, although it's good, I think it was a hard experience, and like it's hard to sort of. I know that a lot of people have said that it wasn't very validating either.
mm,
So I don't know. I think it's such a hard thing to do, isn't it?
it
To know
really
what's
is
the.
hard because
I
what
mean,
you
that's what I would want to ask you. Like,
mhm.
what would you say if you had a child and they were experiencing this? Like, what would be your steps of them, like, to help them?
Mm-mm. Well, my stand and
Hmm.
values have always been, when I work with the families, I always want the parents to be in the position is that they
Hmm.
are always the first person people, their teenager want to come and speak to them about
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
Right. And I know the teenagers, if you say something, Mom, I smoked marijuana over the weekend with my pals. The first thing is like, what?
Yeah,
And then you only need that one, what? Your child will never come and speak to you again.
yeah,
Right. And then it just escalates, deteriorates from
yeah,
there. But I'm
yeah,
still in the view is parents are important. They are the most
yeah,
influential people in the teenager's life. Yes,
yeah.
you want to spend time with your friends, but they always come back to you for guidance and stuff. So I always want the parents to be that people that their young person can come and speak with. What will happen though, Belle? You say if you go for a therapy, so if a young person go for therapy, right, and talk about how depressed I am, things are really difficult at home, or school is difficult and being experiencing bullying, all these things. But then when they go back to their family home life, she still or he still can talk to his families and parents
Mm,
about the challenges. Things
mm,
are not going to get changed, right?
mm,
You just be in the cycle of I feel bullied, I feel depressed. So the parents need to be supported to be in the position to be able to speak to their children, to their teenagers,
yeah.
and allow the
Mm,
teenager open that opportunity for the teenagers to be able to trust the parents.
mm,
Go, you know what? I can talk about the darkest thoughts I have or the
mm,
worst mistakes I made. My
mm,
parents are still listening and trying to
mm,
understand and help me through this instead of
mm,
what,
mm,
or
yeah.
like that's not true, you shouldn't have done that, you should have known better. So these are
Mm,
the things parents can easily do, and it's
mm,
understandable because life is stressful, thinking
mm.
about you have to work and then parent, and then there's other extended family stuff, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
So but that's what I would have always do is to support the parents to how to stay connected with their children's feeling, being able to speak about things and be open-minded about what they bring. And I think I spoke about this last time is be curious, don't jump into don't do that or do this, be curious about their experience so then you are best placed as parents to be able to help the teenagers with their
Yeah.
feelings or
Mm-hmm.
the low mood and depression side
Mm-hmm.
of things. And then I
Yeah.
think what you say earlier is really helpful because when you are feeling depressed, you have no motivation to
Mm-hmm.
do anything.
And that's the main part of it,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Mm. And then you also talk about it's only when you are out of the situation, then you reflect on it, then you think, okay, actually, I was probably a bit depressed because of the
Mm-hmm.
life circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So on this note, before I move on to talk about how, what other steps can help, I'm just curious about what are the signs if you noticed afterwards on your reflection, like you actually think I was actually depressed? Because I think this
um,
will help the teenagers and the parents to know
yeah,
what are the signs they can look for.
I think, yeah, the main thing is just feeling so unmotivated,
Mhm.
not really being able to leave your bed. Sorry. Oh, still
It's
coughing.
okay. Mm-mm.
Not really being able to leave your bed.
Mhm. Belle's got a cold. It's okay.
You're gonna have to cut this.
It's fine.
Hold on a second. Okay, will you be able to cut that when you?
Yeah. But do I want to cut it? I don't want to cut it, Belle.
I just had a full cut. I want you to cut it.
Yeah, I will cut it. It's fine. I think I can cut it. I'm not sure I can cut it. Maybe I can cut it.
I hope
if I can cut it. People will be watching this.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fine.
What was your question again? Sorry.
The science. How did you reflect it on the science and thinking, oh, I was feeling a bit depressed.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Okay. So, the signs when I look back, I realized, well, I knew at the time, but like when I sort of confirmed it, I was like, I 100% was depressed. I was unmotivated. I didn't really look after myself properly, mentally and physically. I sort of would shut people out a lot easier. Like even if my friends did ask to see me quite often, I'd be like, no, like I wouldn't go out. Even though that's what would have made me feel better, but you don't understand it. I think you get a lot of anxiety that comes with depression as well. A lot of insecurities, like a lot comes with depression. It's not just the feeling of being sad. And when I started to feel really low, I think that was what made me realize, okay, that was valid. Like I did actually feel like that. So I guess from a parent's perspective, like if you've noticed your child lost a lot of confidence and is not doing much, is feeling very unmotivated and maybe isn't engaged with anything, I would say that you have to sort of step in at that point.
Yeah, because that's an indication actually your teenager is struggling. And those are really big signs to look out for. Thank you, Belle. Like losing interest in things and unmotivated, and then not wanting to look after yourself physically, everything become a drag or a big thing. You just want to stay in bed in your bedroom all the time, and you probably be quite irritable, grumpy, or want to sleep all day, and you can feel like you say, talk about losing confidence side of thing. You feel guilty or like, oh, I'm so worthless, I can't even do this, and these are really big things to feel, so hopefully the signs you talk about like can help the parents and the teenager to pay more attention to their emotional well-being. And I think what we often forget is, I tell this to the parents all the time, do you know when you have a broken bone, like if you have a fracture, if I broke my hand and I wear a cast, is it a cast? It's a cast, isn't it? It's easy to see, right? It will probably take 6 months and 3 months for this to heal. But then people can see this is the physical pain, right? And people tend to be more understanding of, oh, she's got a broken hand, let me help her with this and this. But when it's emotional pain and emotional challenges, turmoil, I think people tend to struggle like a little bit more because you can't see it.
No.
Right? And I think that sometimes when the parents struggle as well, it's like she's just being lazy, I've seen she's never been like this, and she just XYZ. But that's the things I think is for parents to remember, is like the invisible emotional side of things is something we need to pay attention to a bit more.
And I also think like parents could easily sort of think, if it's their first teenager, if they've never had that experience before, they could just think, oh, this is just them being a teenager, like they're just being like this just because they're being a teenager, and writing off like that. So maybe if parents are the sort of parents that are engaged and are paying a lot of attention to how the teenagers are feeling, then that would prevent that as well.
Yeah, because you want somebody to be there for you, aren't
Yeah,
you? Like knowing what you're going through. Although, I mean,
yeah,
teenagers probably will struggle to explain what I'm going through, what they're going through, but being
yeah,
there and, like you said earlier, validating what their experiences and feelings are
yeah,
really important.
yeah,
Mm-mm.
yeah.
Wow. Like, I suppose there's a bit I haven't said is about how the parents can help, apart
Uh-huh.
from being open-minded, speak to them. And I suppose it's also about setting small goals, isn't it? And I suppose one thing to mention is depression could be situational.
Mhm.
You know, it could be like a COVID-19, it hit everybody, life circumstances changed, and that is situational. And there are things you can do to work through that process. But there's
Yeah,
also, you know, the side of the chemical in your brain, which you might
yeah,
require some medication for that, and
yeah,
then you have to go to your GP for it. But regardless, what is causing the depression? I think it's setting like small fun activities to do. Realistic expectation can be really helpful for parents,
yeah,
apart from talking. Even it's just like 3 minutes, sit in the garden having a hot chocolate.
yeah, I agree. I
Mhm.
honestly think like when you do feel depressed, those like small moments
Mhm.
have so much more impact on you. Like one good conversation, like every because your whole world is just like awful and everything's just unmotivated and you're unengaged in everything and everything's just so like flatlining. But
Mm.
when someone does actually, pull you out of that a bit, even if you're reluctant about it, like I think it genuinely that's a good point. Like I think that would be so impactful, I think,
Yeah, like
if you
it's
did.
small things, small steps, and achievable steps.
Yeah,
You know, but then again, like you say, really important to have someone they can speak to. If it's
yeah,
not the parents right now, who else can the young person, the teenagers, speak to
yeah,
talk about these feelings?
yeah,
That's
yeah.
really insightful, Belle. This is such a good conversation. I hope the audience enjoy our conversation. Of course, there's a lot of resources online. The
Yeah,
the,
there is.
the teenagers and the families can access to. So, but I suppose we'll always end this with a curiosity.
Mhm.
Remember, from a teenager's perspective, what sort of things you would like parents to be more curious about when it comes
Yeah.
to depression?
Um, I would say, I think parents should be more curious about if their teenager has depression, or even if a teenager doesn't have depression. I think parents should be curious to learn and sort of validate the signs of it. And it's as simple as, when your teenager is showing signs of that,
Hmm.
even if it isn't depression, even if they just feel sad, like it's as simple as that. They don't have to, don't make them feel like they have to be at their worst to be listened to as well.
Hmm.
So just, I think the most important thing is just to validate how they're feeling. And like you said,
Mm-mm.
take them out of it a bit and do activities and that sort of thing. And
Mm-mm.
yeah,
Excellent. Thank you, Belle. I have one curiosity today, but not for the parents, for the teenagers.
right.
Mhm. So let me think about. There's so many in my head. I need to decide one. That's why it's just challenging. I suppose one curiosity I have for the teenagers is when you are feeling depressed, when
Mm,
your families are there around you to support you. I suppose it's being curious about what they are offered to you,
yeah,
right? Instead of just no, not doing that. You don't
yeah,
understand. You don't do this. And
yeah,
if they don't understand, if they say that you do think they don't understand, help them understand.
yeah,
That's really important mutual process. We're encouraging the parents to be curious about the feelings, you know, the depression and what teenagers thinking. But at the same time, I want to encourage the teenager to be curious about where the parents are coming from. You know,
yeah,
if they say, why don't you try this? Where is what can we be curious about? You know,
yeah,
it's from a good place. But if the teenagers could be open-minded and be curious about what's been offered by the parents, that might open up a lot of possibilities and opportunities to help them in to feel better in many different
yeah.
ways.
I
Wow.
agree.
I really love what I just said.
That's
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, but this is really, really, really good. I really enjoyed it.
Mm.
And thank you, Belle, for sharing your own personal story. Now I have to
Yeah.
go back to reflect to see if I was depressed as a teenager 13 years ago, not knowing what I know.
Uh-huh.
But thank you today. I
No
hope
problem.
we'll speak soon.